coming back to the way in which sustainability is framed, and I think this is where, individual developments like, say, the Tata Consultancy Services campus or the Nalanda School, these are really good example of virtuous buildings. But I would argue, and I'd be happy for you to counter-argue, that sustainability does not happen at that scale. It happens at the city or the territory scale. And then we begin to trickle down to what buildings have to do to align with that vision. Let's talk with the rural and the bottom-up first, the Budhly Village in Bhuj. In 2007, this was nominated for an Aga Khan Award and many other accolades. Tell me about this undertaking.
I had this client who's been my client for ages, for whom we built all types of work, from industrial factories to houses. When this earthquake happened, it was 2001. It was on January 26th. The same day I got a call from him. And he said, Vrinda, there's been a devastating earthquake in Kutch, and we have to go and find a village that we want to rehabilitate. And I said, I'm game. I'm ready to come. So we went, and we had to find a village that nobody wanted. Because, Gujarat, the villages which had a Muslim population, a lot of Muslim NGOs had taken. The villages which had a Hindu population, majority Hindu NGOs had taken. And then we found this wonderful village which had more or less like a 50-50, and nobody had taken it up. It was very far. It was practically on the border of Pakistan. It was completely destroyed. 90% of the houses, everything had been destroyed. And we went and we saw it. There was debris everywhere. And the government was building, there was an earthquake earlier in Maharashtra called Latur. And what the government had done was on a grid, building house,
Cookie
like
cutters.
It was knots and crosses. Yeah. So I knew that that's not what I wanted to do. So I began to talk to, again, coming back, talking to the people. And they said, we just have two requirements. One is, we want the size of the house, what we had before the earthquake. We have nothing. And secondly, we want to be in the same piece of land next to the same neighbor that we had before, because that's what gives us solace. That's what gives us confidence. I said, it's winter, it's January, it's going to take us 9 months to rebuild everything. They said, that's fine, we'll sleep in the open, but that's what we want. So we approached it differently. We then did a lot of mapping. We found out the different houses, the different religious communities, the different castes, who had to be near each other. We can't change social systems overnight. We have to respect certain things and understand. And how do we change their way of thinking? That's another issue. We have to do that our own way. But where they wanted to live, they were very clear. And then the client said that I will give the money to buy the materials, but they have to build it themselves, the houses. And we will pay them money to rebuild. That way, the depression will go away. So it took time, but eventually one man started, then they all began to get together, then they rebuilt all the houses in the village, and then they decorated them. We reused all the doors, windows, numbered them. We didn't let anything go to waste. We reused all the debris from the broken houses for the road, for the foundation, and for the tanks. We planted trees. And then, of course, we built a lovely school, which was, I'm happy to say, the Fiden book said that's one of the best buildings of the 21st century, a little school. And it's doing so well. So there are many, many stories to Budhly. We are not going to have the time today, but I've kept in touch with that village for now 20, almost 20 years.
I want to ask you, at the flip end of it, the top-down and the urban. Now, you were involved in a project in Mumbai, the Mumbai Esplanade Park. Talk to me about that. What was that about?
So, I've grown up in South Mumbai, and I was privileged to have an office also here. But on my way to work, I passed two major railway stations, the Western and the Central. And I would see, around 8:30, 9 o'clock, literally thousands of people falling out of the stations and falling into the road. And then the heavy traffic that you know exists in Mumbai. And it always bothered me. And I didn't know what the answer was. But I would travel to different parts of the world and I would see that outside stations, there would always be a plaza or there would be roads, going below ground to take care of it. It seemed such a reasonable solution. So there was a urban planner called Sidhu, Professor Sidhu, and he and I got together and we prepared this plan of converting 103 acres that existed in the southern part of Mumbai to 153 acres. We were giving 53 acres more of open land in a city like Mumbai by creating plazas around these stations. And so the people, when they came out of the station, they would walk onto a plaza and the cars would go below ground for the short length of tunnels. And we worked so hard on it. We prepared all the drawings. Again, it was a pro bono city project. We worked out the slopes, the angles. We've talked to so many bureaucrats. And we thought we were getting somewhere. We had an exhibition. The press supported us. Mumbai may get 51 acres more of land. Let's support this. The commuters came to us and said, wouldn't it be lovely that we don't fall under a taxi as soon as we get out? But we did not get any political support or higher senior bureaucratic support to take it further. I worked on it for 2 years. And, finally, I also gave up. It never got completed. So it's frustrating, and that's why I want Nirmal. That's why I want architects. They have to be activists. They can't just stay with their work. They have to really get into politics.
What went wrong there, and what could you have done differently, or was it entirely out of your control?
I think I had to go and work with very senior bureaucrats and politicians. It had to be done at that highest level. Whereas I worked as an architect, as a planner, I talked to the press and the public. But the people are not enough. It's the decision makers. So you have to go to the decision makers and you have to fight, like we were suggesting, pedestrianization. And I remember at one meeting, one of the senior corporate people said, then how do cars move in that area? So you can see there's so many vested interests that is very, very difficult. And perhaps I should not have done this alone with Professor Sidhu. We were just two of us, although we did so much work. Maybe if we had formed a bigger, I don't know, Nirmal, I really don't know the answer. I just feel very sad, and sometimes I think maybe we were a little ahead of the time. Now they're talking about pavements, now they're talking about heritage, now they're talking about some sort of pedestrianization, they're talking about tunnels, they're talking about green spaces being totally inadequate in Mumbai, the in-between spaces. Nandini, my daughter, who works with me, also an architect, she's done a lot of work on in-between spaces. We don't want gated compounds. We want buildings to be connected with the street.